Yo, we are back. I apologize for that delay. I'll explain what happened. So, when I started this podcast, I didn't have too much of a plan. I just wanted to tell my stories, my tour stories, for the main intention of helping me organize my thoughts to write a book. Because I've been trying to write this book ever since my first tour where I lost my passport in Germany, which was episode, what was that? 4 and 5. So that was a book in itself. And that's pretty much what got me through that whole experience was like, man, when I'm done with this is going to be the craziest story. And, I mean, I was young. That was my first tour and I had a bunch since. So as I would gather these ideas, I'm like, I didn't know whether to make a lengthy book about that one tour or just cram most of my shit into one book, and that way it's just moving along. But nonetheless, there's been a good 10 years or so where I've been raising kids and not necessarily thinking about all of that stuff. So it's been it's been nice to kind of go over it and talk to everybody who was there. I've been getting a pretty good response from all this. And once I stopped, there was plenty of people reaching out because I was attempting to do it every Monday. And now there's been like a 2 or 3 week gap. And I'm good now. So when I first started, I got all my microphone and tablet and I got all my stuff going. The first episode, audio wise, I was like, man, because I don't have the best voice, it didn't sound too bad. I was actually really impressed with how good the voice sounded. On my second attempt, while I was hooking everything up, like I still don't know what happened, but basically like I could hear like a static click, like tick, tick, tick in my headphones. I think it was from my microphone somehow. And I just noticed from that point on, there was like a airy kind of shh sound that I had to start fucking with, trying to hide it or whatever. And I had a couple little like a denoise button in between syllables that kind of would take it away. I would record it real low, and I mean, I just did everything I could to make it sound as good as I could. So then I feel like it got a little worse, but not too bad. Episode 3 and 4, and I feel like you can go check like one by one. It's kind of getting shittier and shittier. Well, then it happened again, and on episode 6, and it literally on episode 6 sounds like it's raining outside. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but for me, I just was like, man, I gotta figure this shit out or buy some new stuff, and I wasn't really in the place to buy a bunch of new stuff. So what I ended up doing is I got a little mixer, and basically that's all that knocked it out. I was running everything direct into an iRig like this, basically using that like a mixer. So now I have like a mixer, boom, and now check that out. Oh yeah, baby, I got this sexy voice. Oh yeah, there's no hiss. Very cool. So now I kind of wish I would have known this before. I would have almost want to redo the other ones, but we'll just keep moving forward. At least I got some good audio now. So that's why I was gone, and I really am sorry. So during this little gap of a couple weeks, something really lame happened. My buddy up here in Arkansas, Brett Slammin, Brett Cooler, he was one of 2 people that I knew when I moved here. And if you didn't know, basically in November, I moved from Shreveport, Louisiana to Little Rock, Arkansas. And he was one of 2 people that I knew, and we were going to start. He's already had the band Burning Nursery, but we were supposed to kind of revamp it up. And that was my only really plan coming here. So I meet up with him, and kind of like he was just going through some stuff, I guess. Like he wasn't being open about it, but I could tell something was weird. And like we just kind of kept like not hanging out and whatever. But I've known Brett for about 10 years. And Anyway, he was battling depression and some problems, and I'm not even sure the cause, but his mom found him dead in his room. And he was younger than me. I think he was like 32. And he was about to play with Lividity, with slimfetamine tomorrow, actually. And he was really excited about it. He was posting about it every day. And it was just really, it caught everybody off guard. That's why I really don't know the cause of death. But he's gone. So that's been a weird thing this week. Yeah, I've known him 10 years. I first met him and Jeremiah Baker, who they were in Burning Nursery together. It was a drum machine band, though. And I used to do Metal Monday in Shreveport. So when I kind of wasn't touring as much, I was throwing shows in Shreveport. That's kind of where Machete Eddy came from. Lindsay called me Machete Eddy, but then when I started Metal Monday, that's when I really actually called myself Machete Eddy. Machete Eddy's Metal Monday. And actually, I did that for a few years. And really great memories. I could make a whole episode on crazy shit that's happened during that. But my first Machete Fest, it was a Cranium came. It was one of those coma tours, I guess. It was a Cranium from Norway, Coat Hanger Abortion. Who else was on that? It ended up being like a huge show. Locally, there was like Appomattox Rebellion, which they were big. Like, there was like several big local bands, and this is like kind of a dive bar. So it was like a great show. Lots of bands, lots of people. But I remember Jeremiah and Brett coming in, and Brett had a Devour the Unborn shirt. I'm like, who the fuck is this dude? And because I know everybody from my area. And anyway, I started chatting with Jeremiah and him, and found out where they're from. And anyway, I would book them a lot. They were like my go-to band for years because I had a lot of death metal coming through, and there wasn't a lot of death metal in my area. So I would have Burning Nursery open up. Great guy. He was like the president of Arkansas death metal, and he stickered the whole city, and he was almost like a pain in the butt for a lot of people because he just always sticking his stickers on everything, and big supporter. I mean, he just had like death metal bands tattooed all over him. He was just the biggest fan, like such a big fan. It's almost like too much of a fan. Like, you know, there's a few guys that are just like, their whole room is just, it's, you know, he was a great guy, big supporter. So we're having his show tomorrow, that Lividity show. He made a dark post 3 days or so before he passed. Said, when I die, I don't want a funeral, I want a Brett's Dead Fest. And me and Heath, the organizer for his fest, Cranial Crushing 4, decided to call it not Brett's Dead Fest, but Brett's Death Fest, which is a nice compromise. And that's tomorrow, and it's going to be great. Pantheon, local Arkansas, kind of like melodic death metal. Vor, old school death metal, been around forever. It's going to be a really cool show. But that happened, and that also put a damper on my attitude. I kind of went through a little slumper there for a minute. But yeah, we're back, episode 7. Glad to be here, and in this one, I'm not going to be talking about like a whole tour or anything like that. It's going to be some festival experiences, just like occasionally where I get hired to go play one festival. All right, so let's see. 2018, I was going through a lot. It was definitely a low point in my life. So I had, after Vital Remains, I come home. There's a few years there. Metal Monday, Malignant Spawn, but like I eventually have some kids. Start dadding it up. Well, me and their mom break up, and there's like a nasty couple years there when it was all fresh. And so I was on my own, and I just remember literally being like in a real low place where I was never suicidal, but I was considering just leaving. I got friends all over the world. I was kind of giving up on like the family thing, or what, you know, it was bad. So I remember being there in like a particularly low moment, and I get a message from Mike, Big Mike from Las Vegas Death Fest. And I remember kind of like, whoa, what's up? And he like, hey man, you want to jam with Maddie Way, which is the singer for Disgorge, total legend. And he's like, yeah man, Liturgy needs a drummer for my fest. I'm like, whoa. So it's like the Bailey Bros and Maddie Way, killer opportunity. And they're like, we ended up co-headlining the last night. And man, it was just like one of those moments in life where super low moment and then bing, now I have something to look forward to. Now, I agreed to it before even, I wasn't super familiar with Liturgy. I knew the band, I knew who they were, but I never owned the album or very familiar. The only reason I even know who they are is because when I was with Incinerate, Scott and Jesse love Liturgy. So like when we're in the truck, they had like the shirt and everything. So I was familiar. It's like a cult kind of band, I guess. But I agree to it, and when I go to check it out, it's like I can't remember when it came out, early 2000s. It isn't the best quality. It's definitely like underground brutal death metal, and it's almost like an old black metal album. It's just real like you can't distinguish much. It's just chip 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 chip. Like I can't hear the cymbal strikes or anything. I pretty much created my own version of those songs, and it was hard. John Ingman, he's like, master of the hyper hammer blast with both hands. And I mean, usually if someone asks me to play for their band, it's usually the drums are usually pretty fucking hard. So like I remember I hadn't done anything like that in a while. I agree to it and I listened to it and it's just like, damn, like every song is just I'm like, fuck. And now I have kids, so it's like I hadn't in the past when I didn't have kids, I learned that stuff. I'm consumed with it. Now that I have kids, I'm like, they're up my ass all the time. It was like I was having a difficult time. But even still, it helped me out a lot to have to do all that. So I'm learning those songs. And Jamie hits me up, says him and Mike are willing to come drive down to jam some of the songs. So this was pretty lame too. I had never met them before. So they drive and it's like 10 hours, maybe even more. It's far. And my guitarist at the time, he has like a really nice guitar setup. And he said that, they could use his shit. Well, they drive here and I can't fucking get a hold of him. He kind of left me hanging. Great guy, one of my best friends, but that day he left me hanging. And they drove by, like, I'm like, fucking, we're waiting forever. The kids are there. It's like the kids are in my jam room. We're not jamming. They just drove a long way. I'm like, eventually I go, hey, we can kind of just practice, I'll just play on the floor and we'll go over the time. It was really like just trying to make the best of it. And eventually I was like, wait a second, I have a old school PVPA or whatever. We'll just fucking plug into that. And Mike I had a bass rig he can play through, Jamie, and then we figured it out basically after like 2 hours of sitting in that room, just fucking so awkward. Once that got going, the jams were cool. We made it through. It sounded good. But I remember that was like, man, it just didn't start off very great. And I took those guys out to Strange Brew, which was kind of my stomping ground at the time. I was throwing Brutality at the brew like every month, which was really cool. But anyway, that was when I met them. And although it started off kind of weird, like great guys, fucking love those guys. But I just felt like a fucking chump, kind of. I was like, man, it didn't go great as far as just my living situation. But we managed to make it happen, and that was the only jam we really got in besides when we got there. So the Alex, I don't know his whole name. I just know him as Alex. He played for Depulsed at that fest. He's from Las Vegas. I think he played for Abominable Putridity with Maddie Way, also at Vegas Fest like the prior year or something. Really cool guy. But I was using his drums and his jam room to go over the stuff the day or two before the fest. That was with Maddie, so it was like the first full band practice was right before the fest. When I arrived into Vegas, I remember I was an hour or two after Mike and Jamie. And just like always, I'm fucking broke. I have no money. Like, I've gone my whole career traveling around the world with no money or drums. Of all the tours I've ever done or fests, the only time I've ever used my drums was one time, and that was the Cancer Horror tour. So, I mean, pretty impressive, right? I mean, I'll probably make an episode where I actually explain how I was able to do all that without ever using my drums in the situations in which I fell into because of that. But yeah, I show up and they're already at the hotel, and for whatever reason, like they couldn't. Oh yeah, well they don't have a car, so they couldn't come get me or anything, and I didn't have money for like whatever. So I show up and it's like, cool, I'm finally here in Vegas, but then I'm like, I'm about to fucking sleep at the airport tonight. And fix this a little bit. So that was a bummer because I was like hungry, but I knew that things were gonna get cool, you know. So I'm just whatever. I reach out to Paul McGuire, my homie. You've heard me bragging about our friendship on our previous episodes. He was there. I reached out to him. He ended up buying me an Uber. Fucking boom. So once again, Paul saves me. But I remember what really sucks is on the plane to Vegas, they had like a pack of nuts. And as I'm eating, my fucking tooth, pow, breaks in half. And man, no, it wasn't. It was this one. And it hurt. It was like so painful. The whole weekend in Vegas, I was like really babying my mouth. I couldn't eat anything. Everything I was eating, I was like real slow because if I even tweaked it at all, it was horrible, horrible pain through my whole head. And so that was the only, like, besides that, it was such an amazing weekend. So many fucking good bands. I know Necrotic Disgorgement played, Waking the Cadaver, Blood Red Throne, Gorgasm. I mean, it was like fucking a great fest. But I remember the whole time, Reviled. I met those guys from Dallas. That was the first time I met them. Yeah, the whole time was like my fucking tooth was just fucking killing me. So, come the day of the fest or of our show, and it's like a couple hours before. I'm fucking like I've been taking liquid gel ibuprofens all day, so I had already taken like 8. My stomach's all messed up. It's like my shit still hurts. I took like 3 or 4 more right before I went on. So like I had taken a lot of fucking liquid gel ibuprofen before I went on, and it worked out. I guess there's actually I made a music video for. If you go on my page, the Bishop's Gathering, I made a little music video. I used some of the footage that Paul filmed, and also Damien Dr. Death. I want to say he filmed some stuff. I just pulled some stuff off YouTube and kind of meshed it all together for a cool little video. But if you go to my channel, you'll see a little liturgy music video, and that was from the Las Vegas Death Fest. It was really cool. So Paul is homies with Dino from Fear Factory. And I didn't know this, but he recommended me for Dino's new project. I'm not sure which project that was at the time, but he was looking for a new drummer, and Paul's like, I got your guy. So I didn't know this, and I'm like on the 3rd song, and also the triggers on the kick drum was like real loose. It was like there might have been a pillow, but it wasn't super muffled, and my triggers were just not working at all. So the first song, they were just not working, and then I had to stop. I want to say the trigger popped off of the rim, like it was like a really glossy wooden rim. The trigger popped off. I'm like, fuck. So the first song we had to stop. We started over. It's a little bit better, but I'm dropping down the gain a little bit. And it took like the 3rd song before like I'm playing okay, but I'm still playing like all leg. The technique that I had learned the songs with, it was like out the window. Now I'm just like Dave Lombardo style, just you know, as hard as I can. But yeah, so anyway, 3 or 4 songs in, I look over, it's fucking Dino. Fucking fucking filming me. And Paul was filming a drum cam of me, so like you see me go like, oh, shit, it's fucking Dino. And I even kind of like blasted, like I did something weird. I'm like, oh shit, focus, man. But yeah, that was like a big deal. I had never met Dino. I'm a fucking huge Fear Factory fan, and that was cool. So I mean, ultimately, there's nothing crazy. You know, a lot of my stories are like, oh man, I was stranded here or whatever. This was just a fucking incredible situation where I was in a low point in life. Mike reaches out, recommends me. You know, we make it happen. I get flown out. You know, meet tons of new friends, see tons of friends. You know, it was a really good time. That like anyone that was there, we still talk about it. You know, and those memories come up on our timeline, and it's always a good memory. You know, and big shout out to Mike, Big Mike, and the fest. All those Vegas fests were great. Now he's doing the Sin City Death Fest, which seems like he's doing pretty good. But yeah, that was a hell of a situation, and that was one of the later kind of events that I've done. Probably the coolest thing that I've done as of recent years, and it was great to work with Maddie and the Bailey Bros, and we hope to have some new stuff for you pretty soon. All the tracks are written. It's very difficult stuff. I did one version of the track a couple years ago, and just with COVID and I guess their other project they got going on, they're recording that album now. It's just been on the back burner, but there is hope for Liturgy in the future. There's 10 songs. It's been written before I was even in the band. I've been jamming for a long time. Once now that I have my studio going, it gets getting there. Yeah, we're gonna have some new tracks for you guys, so you have that to look forward to, and I look forward to it as well because it's some good shit. You're gonna like it.
We got Happy One coming. Let's go. You guys fucking really love you. Thank you for everything. Thank you very much.